Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're exploring the incredible life, the deep spiritual journey, and the really sudden, heartbreaking passing of Jamaican reggae legend Fantan Mojah. We're going to look closely at how a young guy from rural Jamaica completely transformed himself into a global ambassador for conscious music. He navigated some seriously tough currents in the music industry, but as you'll see, he stayed fiercely loyal to his faith the entire time.
Part 1. A Legend Falls Silent. Just weeks before what would have been his 50th birthday, the reggae world lost one of its absolute most uplifting voices. It's just a profound loss for fans everywhere, because this was a voice totally dedicated to healing, faith, and unity, and it's tragically gone silent. On July 14, 2026, the international music scene lost a truly irreplaceable light. In an industry that, let's be honest, often thrives on controversy, Fantan Mojah stood entirely apart. He was a literal beacon of righteousness for his listeners, and his passing sent shockwaves not just through Jamaica, but right across Europe, Africa, and North America.
49. And I think this number brilliantly illustrates the sheer untimeliness of his passing, leaving us at just 49 years old after a really prolonged battle with chronic heart disease. He was just weeks away from that milestone 50th birthday, a time we usually reserve for celebration and looking back. His journey was cut way too short. But to truly understand why those 49 years were so deeply impactful, we have to rewind to where it all really began.
Part 2. Roots and Spiritual Awakening.
So born Owen Lennox Moncrieffe in the quiet hills of White Hill in 1976, his journey started out pretty simply. He had a very grounded upbringing where music and spirituality were just naturally woven into everyday life. And like so many young Jamaican dreamers in the 90s, he hustled. He used every single opportunity with local traveling sound systems to sharpen his vocal skills. He wasn't the headline act back then. Actually, he was just the guy doing the sound checks. But he was smart. He used those moments to introduce his unique sound to the local crowds. Then, moving into the early 2000s, he went through a profound spiritual transformation. He deeply embraced the Rastafarian faith, specifically the Bobo Ashanti sect, and that fundamentally altered the entire trajectory of his life. Now, this is really interesting. Looking at his early artistic identity, we see a massive, dramatic shift. When he first started out, get this, he called himself Mad Killer. That was a direct nod to his idol, the legendary dancehall artist Bounty Killer, who was famous for his aggressive, gritty lyrics. But as his spiritual priorities shifted away from those themes, his stage name had to go too. It was actually reggae superstar Capleton who recognized his immense talent and his spiritual growth. Capleton pushed him to adopt a new name, Fantan Mojah. And this wasn't just some clever rebrand, it was a total rebirth. It signaled a complete transition away from the gritty dancehall scene and toward a deeply spiritual, positive message. Which brings us to Part 3, Rise of the King. His rise to prominence in the mid-2000s was literally meteoric. After building up this huge local momentum at Jamaican festivals, he caught the eye of Down Sound Records and signed with them in 2004. He dropped early singles like Hungry, which instantly struck a chord with the working class. But 2005, that was the true turning point. He released his massive breakthrough debut album, Hail the King. The success was instantaneous. It catapulted him globally and quickly established him as one of reggae's brightest new stars. By 2006, his message had captivated Europe so thoroughly that he kicked off the first of 3 consecutive European tours, playing for thousands of enthusiastic fans far beyond the shores of Jamaica. And these defining tracks proved that reggae could be massively commercially successful while still being morally uplifting. He entirely avoided the need to chase controversy. The title track, Hail the King, gave listeners music just packed with hope. Nubbilled Great Man, his killer collaboration with Ja Cure, became an absolute anthem for fans. And Corruption really showcased his willingness to deliver powerful, socially conscious critiques. He proved you absolutely didn't have to follow the latest fads or rely on explicit content to sell records. Authenticity and a meaningful message were more than enough.
Moving on to Part 4, The Conscious Reggae Message.
He fundamentally believed that music should be a tool to educate, to heal, and to bring us together. He stood absolutely firm against the shifting trends of the industry. In an era where mainstream dancehall was leaning heavily into slackness, which means explicit content, or graphic violence, Fantan Mojah drew a hard line in the sand. He became one of the leading champions of conscious reggae. This is a subgenre that demands strict positivity, spiritual awareness, and moral consciousness from its artists over anything explicit. By strictly adhering to these core tenets, he actively separated himself from the negativity you'd often find in mainstream dancehall culture. As a devoted member of the Bobo Ashanti sect, his faith literally dictated his lyrics. You see unwavering praise for Jah and Rastafarian teachings. You see a relentless promotion of peace, unity, and moral living. But crucially, you also see a deep, consistent respect for women in his lyrics, which was profoundly refreshing for a lot of listeners. He totally rejected corruption, graphic violence, and slackness, inspiring young people to live positive lives.
Sadly, we have to turn to part 5, Final Days and Heartbreak. 15%. I want you to just think about that for a second. This alarming figure represents his heart's functioning capacity during a severe hospitalization in Martinique back in July 2024. He was rushed to the hospital with severe chest tightness and breathing difficulties right in the middle of a tour. Finding out your heart is only working at 15% capacity is a devastating blow, and obviously it alarmed everyone close to him. Yet, true to his spirit, he didn't just throw in the towel. He valiantly fought back against his condition. He actually recovered enough by early 2025 to resume touring in Europe. But the underlying disease was just relentless. By mid-2026, he was gearing up to perform at the Reggae Jam Festival in Germany. His Schengen visas had literally just been approved. He was staying quietly with friends in Portmore, trying to take it easy after getting back from the US. But his health began to decline rapidly. He was admitted to the University Hospital of the West Indies in Kingston, where tragically his heart stopped completely on July 14, 2026. The sudden and rapid deterioration in his final days was a massive shock to his friends and his caretakers. This quote right here from his booking agent, Vertex, it is incredibly tough to hear, but it paints a really stark picture of how fast things turned. 1 week he was hearty, prepping for a massive festival in Germany, and days later, he was gone. It's such a sobering reminder of the fragility of life, even for the icons we love.
Finally, part 6, an enduring positive legacy.
Now, while he fiercely protected his family's privacy, he rarely spoke publicly about his spouse or his 5 kids, his global success was undeniable. He built an estimated net worth of $1 to $2 million US, and he generated that through years of relentless, authentic musical output. From massive music sales and streaming revenue to packed international concert tours and live festival performances, he built a highly successful career entirely on his own terms, and he did it without ever selling out his core values. As heartfelt tributes continue pouring in from artists, radio stations, and fans all around the globe, it's abundantly clear that his true wealth was the hope he instilled in his listeners. People aren't just sharing his songs online today, they're sharing deeply personal stories of how his music pulled them through their darkest struggles. His legacy isn't measured just by record sales or tours, it's measured by the lives he touched with his words and his unwavering faith. He proved that kindness and faith are always stronger than hatred and fear. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Fantan Mojah showed us it's entirely possible to stand firm in your convictions, even when the whole world is pushing you to conform. The music he left behind is going to continue uplifting future generations, for sure. So, how can you apply his messages of fierce positivity, unwavering faith, and resilience to your own life today? Ask yourself how you can bring a little bit of that Hail the King positivity into your own community. Thanks so much for joining me to celebrate the life of an incredible artist. Rest in eternal peace, Fantan Mojah.